I'm here using the default camera on my laptop.
I done upgraded.
I see. The background is blurry, but you're not. It's perfect. It's that high def shit. Is that 8K?
I don't know. I don't. Yeah, I don't. I actually don't know. Maybe. Do we need the 8K? Can the human eye even detect 8K? I don't know.
I don't think we can, dude. I just upgraded my TV, and I'm like, I feel like I need new eyes. Like my eyes aren't good enough for this TV that we got.
I see what you're putting out. Like we all like. Let's go to the eye guy, get the robot eyes, and it'll be great.
Please? I mean, we're already, so close. We might as well.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. How are you?
I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm good. I feel like I just saw you.
You did. You did.
I know.
Yeah, we'll let people know where we were hanging at the Mastodon Opeth show. I missed Zeal and Ardor, unfortunately, but
As did I. Very disappointed. Love that band.
yeah, dude, it's a shame. I was still working. I was still working when they were playing, so I'm finally taking advantage of the fact that I moved up to the Hollywood Hills, area.
Oh,
So,
shit.
not the Hollywood Hills, but let me not exaggerate. I'm not in the Hollywood Hills. I'm by the tar pits. I'm on the bottom of the hills.
I used to live across the street from the tar pits.
Oh, nice, dude. Yeah, I'm right off of Wilshire. I'm not going to give my address out.
It's called, the name of the area is Mid Wilshire or Miracle Mile. Okay.
Ooh, I'm not on Miracle Mile. I know I'm like close to it though. I'm like, it's down the street.
Yeah, I lived there for 2.5 years.
Nice. Yeah, I like it. I mean, definitely from where I was in Long Beach. I know you're in Long Beach now.
I know we done swapped roles. Yeah.
Jeez.
Yes.
Yeah, I had to get out of the place I was at though, because it was off of Cherry and 7th. That place was just every day the cops were blocking the street. Either somebody died, there's a car accident, I had to call the cops because I saw a dead body. It was a dead homeless guy, and he was blue. And I just look at my wife. I'm like, "Is that dude blue?" She's like, "Yeah, you should call." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm gonna call, I guess." Hey, somebody died last night, I guess.
Good Lord.
Yeah, that's Long Beach. So I needed to get out of there. Also, since the last time you were on the show, a lot has happened.
Yeah.
Last time you were on the show, we talked a little bit about race, and look at what happened.
Did did I do anything?
It was all your fault, bro.
Listen. Well, it's kind of funny because almost in that time, I feel like I talk less about politics and social issues. In many ways, because I feel like the conversation has just gotten toxic. Like we're talking past each other.
Oh yeah.
It's just not really productive, and I think they're so locked into their sides. I think people are also less persuadable, and so it's like I'll talk about whatever, but it's kind of funny how I've kind of like, even in like social media, like I try and stay away from it because I don't think it really helps very much. And I don't know. I almost feel like, you know what? I could make the most impassioned argument about just about anything, but will that change any minds? Probably not. People who already agree with me will probably agree with me, and people who won't either. So what's the point? And we have this inflated sense of like self-importance, right? Oh, I'm going to lay it all out, and all of a sudden, people,
I'm going to tell you how it is, bro.
Yeah.
Let me tell you how it is. It's like, oh my God. Yeah, I'm with you, man. I don't know what's going on. I find myself, you and I are similar in the sense that we keep running into each other at everything because we go to all of the things.
Yeah.
And I keep getting caught in these conversations at shows or something where people will start, and the second I hear there's certain words that happen in that conversation.
Vaccine.
Not even. Let's not even say vaccine. Just like, liberal. The second I hear liberal, I'm like, oh,
yeah,
I'm leaving the room. and as soon as that conversation starts, I just turn around. I'm like, all right, guys, I'll be back, going to the bathroom, and I just disappear.
Yeah, I mean, it's a reflection of where the culture's at, which is pretty much in any silo. There's a demonization. People think the people they disagree with are evil,
Yeah, there's no conversations anymore. It's
If,
just
if I think
fight.
you're evil, just based on your ideology, right, or whatever, what kind of sector of the culture you sit in, there is no conversation. There's only violence at that point. And what's the point?
Yeah.
So
I don't know, man. It's tough. It's tough for people like myself, and I assume you as well. Like, I want to help. You know what I mean? But how? And I think that the podcast and music definitely helps a little bit, but I don't really know what needs to happen in order for the conversations to start up again. You know, outside of putting out conversations and hopefully, people start paying attention. I don't know.
well, it's like I kind of pine for this time before social media. Like it's literally TMI, right?
Mhm.
Like the truth is, people always had some variance of thoughts or ideas about any number of subjects, but we just didn't know about it. Like we didn't talk about it. Like it's funny. I've been watching Seinfeld on Netflix because it got reissued on there, and there's nothing ever political on Seinfeld. Right? They did literally every season. There's 9 seasons. Every season's like 24 episodes, right?
Yeah,
And it's
nuts.
so funny. And it's funny because it's the show about nothing, right? Because they can take the most mundane thing and then make a great show about it. But it speaks to like the difference in the way we talk about things. Like I almost feel like it's a failure of imagination now that we feel like we have to talk about politics, about everything. Like I like talking about it in certain like framings, but it's not everything, right? Like you can make a political interpretation of almost anything, but that doesn't have to be necessarily the focus of a conversation around that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, absolutely, man. It's weird. You know, talking about Seinfeld, I recently rewatched or I would say watched it for the first time in its entirety because I had seen, a plethora of episodes just randomly. I got a hotel or in a fucking airplane or something. So I sat down and like watched the whole thing from start to I didn't realize how shitty all those people are. Like George Costanza is such an asshole. Like
that's the whole point of the show is that they're like they said there was a mantra of the show. It's like no hugs, no lessons, meaning that they're even kind of like the actual model that followed that was It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Where even though they're a collective, they screw each other over all the time. And so the point is that, but with Seinfeld, say no hugs is like, no, there's no emotion. And we also, no one grows. No one screws up and then learns
a lesson. Dude, yeah. I had never seen the finale and it's so perfect. Like I was like, wait, what? That's how it ends? That's amazing. Like,
I don't even remember.
Dude. Spoiler alert for Seinfeld people.
Jail, right?
It's been a long time. Yeah, but they all end up in jail. I'm like, I was blown away. I'm like, yeah, that's what should probably happen. They're such assholes that fuck it. That's ended with them in jail. But anyway, I digress. You are busy. I see you doing shit all of the time. I'm busy and I see you doing more than what I'm doing. So I know how busy you are. So tell me, Bad Wolves, Dear Monsters is doing well, very well from what I understand. I see the numbers all over the internet. How does that feel for you?
It's kind of like a mixed bag because can you really feel numbers, right? It's just kind of a thing on a screen. Is it real? Is it, I think you have to have some distance between it because sometimes the numbers also don't go in your favor. So if you think they're real when they're great, are they real when they're bad, right? So it's, I think it's this odd thing where I'd say one thing that's very cool is like when the album came out initially and getting that first weekend of just outpouring and messages and emails and texts of people like giving legitimate accounts of how they feel about the record and knowing that they were really excited about it was very cool. And I felt really great about that. And it also coincided with settling the legal case and kind of tamping down some of, that stuff that really kind of muddied the waters and made it difficult to really enjoy most of the rollout before the record. It was really muddled feelings, kind of leading up to that. But, it's funny. I just did a podcast about analytics and streaming numbers and sales with Eric German and Mike Mowry and Ryan Downey. So it's like, I almost you need to go through a lot of stuff of talking to people who know about this stuff to even interpret what do these numbers mean and how do they measure against these numbers, and what, it's all, it can be a lot to wrap your head around. But, big number for us that actually just, it's not really, I don't think people really realize yet, is that Lifeline just hit number 1 on the active rock charts.
Nice.
Which would be our 6th number 1 single, I believe. And our last single did not go number 1. So I think that's a real point of validation. That was something that felt like if we could do that, it would kind of give some sense of consistency with the band, despite, some personnel variances.
Yeah, some tribulations, as you might call it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get it, man. And it's such a thin line between, paying attention to the numbers because it's important, because it's your business. It's also your passion, but it's your life. Like you don't have a day job. This is your day job. So you have to kind of look at the numbers just to make sure the finances are there, I guess. But also, like you said, you can't really gauge it by that, because some numbers can be fake, some numbers can be real. Like, who knows?
Well, it's not that they're fake. It's just that they can be decontextualized. Like, you have to understand, a statistic can be cherry picked, and a narrative can be developed around that. But unless you contextualize that against the backdrop of all the other numbers that matter and delve into it and see what story that really tells, and you have to be dispassionate, because sometimes you want it to tell a certain story, so you'll manipulate, like I said, take a number out of, cherry pick a number and go, oh, well, this is the story I want to tell, so I'm going to focus on that. Which is, we spin things to
everyone does, man.
To develop, if we're in the business of selling our band and have people, feel that the band's doing well. And I think in many ways the band is doing really well, but I think there's a lot of areas to work on, a lot of areas to grow, a lot of just work we need to do. We haven't toured yet with this iteration of the band. That's the next big thing. So 2022, it's going to be about getting the live show together. And to me, I think that's when it'll feel real. If there is success and you can see it and you can feel it and you can talk to people and you reach out and touch them and see the excitement. And that's something that is impossible to fake, in my opinion.
Right. Yeah, it is. It is. Absolutely. There's nothing like the live show experience, dude. And it's been hurting. Thankfully this year alone, I've seen some of my favorite bands. So I'm grateful. I'm happy. If the Deftones were to magically appear in LA in the next week or so, I'd be set. Like, I did the whole thing. So
they're coming.
Yeah. So it's just, live shows are, to me, always the most important thing. I don't even care who's there. Like, if it's like a small crowd, a big crowd, I just want to be there for that whole, to me, that's the experience. The albums are one thing too. I feel like an album is more of something you take home from the band. But to me, the band experience is watching them perform live.
Yeah, and I think to some degree, I think there's a generational switch with that. I think it's we're in that. I mean, I think we're having a younger generation who really might be experiencing the band solely through virtual means.
Yeah,
streaming, YouTube, Twitch, like because some people are introverts. They don't necessarily like going to shows. They don't like being outside of their comfort zone or being around people, especially post-pandemic. Some people are just, they don't feel comfortable, right? So there are really two different existences. There's some bands who don't stream very well at all or sell very many records, but they sell tons of tickets and people
And the merch lines are out the door, and
exactly. So there's all these different avenues of kind of connecting with the band, and you're seeing a whole new kind of economy around. Hey, we're not touring right now, but here's the other ways we're going to connect with our fans. Yeah. And so I think anyone who's embracing that, and obviously you want to do both if you can, is ahead of the curve.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's revenue when there wasn't, because before you would hear that all the time, like, we make all our money on the road. So what happens when you don't have a road? You got to make your own damn fucking road. That's it. Yeah.
And the bands like the Deftones who still haven't toured, right, since then.
Yeah. Yeah, but they're selling you boxes of weed. You know what I mean? Did you see that?
I did.
Dude, I called Dr. Green Thumbs because I was like, I need to get everything that they put out. I have the tequila. I might as well find this box of weed. They wanted $420, which was just
how much?
$420, really?
How much weed?
Not $420 worth. Okay. Like I love you, Deftones, but nah, I can't do that. Like that's, I did the math. $250 tops. I would have paid $250.
Okay.
But you're dropping like $200 on packaging, on just the fact that it has a white pony on it. Gotcha. And that's cool. If you got the money, worth it. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful box. Lots of, white pony logos everywhere. They got 3 different types of edibles. They got flour. They got a pen, and they got some other stuff. Great. That's not in my budget.
Not like a vinyl. Like I can keep that vinyl forever. I mean, eventually you smoke the weed. There's no weed left,
Right. If it came with something like an album or something, yeah, I think it would be worth it for sure. But that is the type of things that bands need to be doing. And did you hear I think it's Megadeth put out Crypto.
Megabucks. You can't go to the show without. It's like, hey, buddy, do you take U.S. currency? Nope, only Megabucks.
So what do you think about that in terms of do you think we're headed towards a clusterfuck where currency is just everything?
You're talking to the wrong guy. I'm so out of the loop with that stuff.
I don't know what an NFT is. I'm just wondering, like I see it happening, and I'm starting to feel like the old man that's like losing touch with technology. Like when my grandfather couldn't figure out what a GPS was, and I had to explain that.
Listen, I think, what I know vaguely about blockchain technology, I think that will be with us to stay and will move a lot of things forward technologically. As far as the NFT thing, part of me goes, I get the kind of rush to it, but it almost kind of reminds me of like baseball cards and comic books in the early 90s when everyone's like, oh, everyone needs to buy this thing because we think it's going to be worth something. But I don't know enough about these things to know if that's true, but I'm sure in some capacity the technology will persist, and cryptocurrency, I'm sure, will be with us to stay in some form. Like I said, I'm definitely not educated enough on the subject to really give, I think, any valuable information.
Oh yeah, I have no. And my friends call me up like, "Yo, you got any Shiba coins?" I'm like, what? And then like he explained it to me. I'm like, I'll do it. And then I bought like 2 million Shiba coins, and just because it was like $7 I was like, I can, if I lose $7, I'm not mad.
No,
you know what I mean? But it's just sitting there. Now it's like $100. I'm like, okay, that's cool, but I'm not like, I don't know what's happening. How is it happening? Why is that happening? Fine.
More people buy it. More people want it. I mean,
yeah, dude, it's weird.
Economy.
It's weird. I feel like eventually, like what Megadeth is doing, it's just everyone's just going to have their own currency, and you would have to go to like a booth, like an arcade, turn your dollar into 4 tokens in order for you to play the games in my shop. You know what I mean?
I doubt that. I think what technology has actually proven that over time, markets consolidate, right? So there's one Amazon, there's one Best Buy, there's one Ticketmaster, like things actually tend to monopolize, not spread out. So I don't know if that'll be like every band will have their own crypto.
Well, I don't know about Ticketmaster. There's a plenty of side ticket places. Like
guess what? You know who never went away? Ticketmaster.
That's true.
I still don't know what they do besides have a website, motherfucker. What do you do? But
They print out tickets for you to take home and put them in a Ziploc bag, and then 20 years from now, go, holy shit! Remember this show?
okay, but if why can't the venue do that?
Yeah, they could, but then the venue would have to care about the bands that are playing. And
Why wouldn't the venue care about the bands that are playing? Keeping the lights on doesn't really make a lot of sense. I'm just saying they found out to be some of the biggest businesses ever. People found out a way to be a middleman, and once you're a middleman, you go, well, I'm not going to give that up. So I'll just find a way to keep being the middleman. But I don't know what they really do.
They do the connection. They connect the dots, bro. That's what I do. I mean, that's who I am, right?
No, it's like that scene in, you know what they are? Ticketmaster is that dude in Office Space. He goes, so what do you do here? Well, I take the orders and then I bring them to the engineers. And he goes, wait a second. So you actually take the orders? Well, no, my secretary does that. You physically bring the orders from your secretary to the engineers? Sometimes. What would you say
you do here?
I'm a people person. Like,
yeah, that's me though, bro. To a fault. That's my character. That's how I've done everything. That's how I met my band in Florida, fucking years ago. It was just, I don't know. Come to my house. I'll have a party. You can meet these people and have this band, and then you guys can like, and, you know, I connect the dots. I don't know. So, okay. Talk to me a little bit about, God forbid, I mentioned Florida. You know, it's Florida. It just hit me. I'm like, I need to talk a little bit about this. I've seen some murmurings. What can you tell me about, God forbid, doing stuff?
Yeah, there have been murmurings and odd phrasing there. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely some interest, and we've definitely had some talks and some emails, and it's just a matter of timing. You know, we have several members in different states, families, jobs, a lot more complexities to it than in the old days, and especially with me, with Bad Wolves launching an album, having a lot of uncertainty around the talks, you know, because, you know, we kind of going back, I don't even know, like 5 months or something, and things being in flux, I have to really make sure I know what Bad Wolves is doing before I can plan around that. So
yeah,
everyone's kind of waiting on me right now, unfortunately, but it'll all work out. I think everything happens in due time, and I'd rather do it correctly than rush it.
Absolutely.
So you know, we'll see. It'd be fun. You know, I think in many ways the environment is probably more welcoming, I think, to a band like God Forbid now than at the time we disbanded. And you know, you just got to go. You got to try some things, and it should just be fun. You know, and if it's not, I don't think you should do things like this for the money. Not that I don't think we make that much money, but I think we should do it because it's fun and we enjoy each other's company, and that people want to see it. That's the main thing. Do people, if there's an audience for it and people appreciate it, then yeah, let's try and do it. We'll see. But definitely a lot of things have to be laid out first logistically, you know, to make it happen.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, you got to do it, like you said, for the passion. And Bad Wolves is passion, but also that's the moneymaker right now, you know? And if it takes priority, if they drop a tour on you out of nowhere, you got to be ready to take it and then plan accordingly to, you know.
Well, I mean, thankfully, it's not going to be a situation like that where tours are coming out of nowhere. Things will be planned, but it's still, we're dealing with more extended timelines, and yeah, it's just have to be very strategic. And I'd rather have know I'm doing something 8 months from now and have it worked out so you can kind of meticulously get everything together, because it's a lot. I mean, when a band hasn't played together in, you know, damn near 10 years, there's a lot of work that has to lead into making that, all that machinery well oiled again.
Yeah, a lot of WD-40 is needed.
That's right. Machinery and our knees.
Yeah, dude.
And necks.
It's so nuts seeing. I feel like there is a resurgence of stuff from when I was younger that's coming back. Bands are coming back. You know, like not MMA, professional wrestlers or older wrestlers are back wrestling from my youth. There's, you know, movie like the Ghostbusters are back. Like, you know, it's there's a lot of
They're not back. All right.
what do you mean?
Hey,
I haven't seen it.
Ghostbusters were not 10 years old. Okay. So that means they ain't back. Okay.
Yeah. I don't know.
No. Some Ghostbusters are back. I'm saying the Ghostbusters are not back.
Yeah.
Okay. That's all I'm saying. Okay. I saw that movie. I did not enjoy it. Okay.
You did not enjoy it?
I did not enjoy it.
Tell me about this, because everyone I've talked to loves it. I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah. Well,
everyone that's seen it's like, wow, amazing. I'm in tears.
I guess they took the bait, I guess.
Oh.
You know, I don't have any nostalgia for Ghostbusters because I watch the first two movies all the time. So like I watch them regularly. So it's not like I'm like, oh, I need that thing. And to me, what the filmmakers think people like about Ghostbusters is like the gadgets and the costumes and the car and the music and the sound effects. And it's like, when I realized, like, oh no, you know what I like about Ghostbusters? I like those characters and those actors and their chemistry and that energy, which is a little magical and it's not easy to recreate. And I'm not saying it wasn't like bad filmmaking per se. I think everyone did their best, and it's a decently enough, well-made film. It's just not the story I want to see. It's not how I would have continued the series, and I think the third act is just like terrible, you know. And I think what it reminded me of is like a much clunkier version of what Star Wars did in their sequel trilogy, but skipping straight to the last movie, right? So it's like if Rise of the Skywalker came out first, which is considered by many to be the worst out of those three. But it picks up a lot of those same beats, which is leaning on nostalgia in a way that feels inauthentic. And I don't know who they made the film for, because the whole thing is they treat the whole first act of the movie like someone who'd never, like you're introducing someone to Ghostbusters who's never seen it, right? So the characters have all these questions that we know the answers to. So how is that fun for me? If they're all, what's this? I'm like, I know what that is. The point is, I should be the one who doesn't know what's going on, right?
Right, yeah.
But then they're trying to introduce it to a new audience, but they're also sitting there like panning across a proton pack for 15 seconds. But who is that for? That's supposed to be for me, the old guy who's supposed to be all like in awe. But they're, you know what I'm saying? Like but they're also making it for a new audience. So it just feels very like
pandering.
It's pandering, but also like, hey, we're going to walk this line and we're going to get a new audience, but then we're going to give the people what they want. It's like, that's not what I want. Yeah. And I think in the first Star Wars, The Force Awakens, I think did that very well. I think they found a way, and I think it's completely different though. Whereas I do think the things that make Star Wars special is the music and the sets and the vibe and the sound. Like, I think we love the Star Wars world. We do love the characters, but the world is just a great thing to be in. And I don't think Ghostbusters is quite the same.
Well, I think that's, with all due respect, your opinion. like I know I go to a lot of conventions and I see these people dress up, and for them, that's Ghostbusters. The dressing up, the cosplaying as the Ghostbusters and having their Ecto whatever packs and their, what's the Ecto cooler from High C. Like it's all merchandise for actually for the majority of their fan base at this point. Like, we're the old guys that, like you said, that movie's not for us. That movie's for the next generation for sure. And then for us to I think what they did it for is for like the dads that have to take their kids.
No, I know.
To see a movie.
And that just seems a little cynical for me. Instead of, what I'm saying is, I'm not saying those, I get there's a whole contingency that cares about that in that way, but that doesn't necessarily lead to good filmmaking.
Yeah, no, I get it. I agree. I mean, how did you feel about it?
I liked the first one, and the second one just was just seemed. I felt like I was watching a live action haunted house. Like it just felt like I'm walking through a haunted house, but it's a movie. Like the second one was like 3 hours long, and it was cool, but I thought the first one was a lot more effective. The guy, the Pennywise, the dude is fucking great, and the design, and I thought it was great. The second one was just a little like it was fine, but I probably won't really go back to it though.
Yeah. Yeah, I felt the same. Wasn't the second one? Wasn't there like a giant statue at one point?
Yeah, it was just like you kind of knew what it was going to. Or it almost, it kind of felt like it. You know how like the Nightmare on Elm Street movies got more comical.
Yeah,
years. It just felt like that. Like each of the characters would go off and do on their little thing, and then they'd have a living nightmare, which was like they're like going through a haunted house, and then they would survive. Like I just don't. Sometimes I start questioning the show. I'm like, okay, so sometimes he can kill people, but then sometimes he doesn't kill people, and then they do all this shit right at the end, and then it doesn't work. I hate that shit. When motherfuckers they spend the whole movie, we gotta get this thing, and then the thing don't work. I'm like, why'd you do all that stuff? Like,
yeah,
why'd you waste my time? You think you're misdirecting? No, you're wasting my time. Writers.
That's great.
It's so important that we did this thing, and it wasn't. It
wasn't that important. It was friendship all along.
That's right. There's a way to pull that off, but this didn't really do that.
Yeah, it's interesting, man. It's a weird time because what do you do? They obviously can't come up with new shit.
Yeah,
they've tried.
No, that's not true. We can come up with new stuff. We can. They can't. I'm saying the collective we.
Yeah.
It's just studios are more risk averse, but I think I think that's the beauty of streaming is that's where you're going to see original properties, less so in mainstream, kind of blockbuster theatrical release. It's going to be less and less. But if you think about it, it's like for everything to be a sequel, there had to be an original, right?
Right.
Just to want the Matrix, new Matrix, there had to be an old Matrix. So you would think that logic would go to them, hey, how are we going to make sequels for shit if we don't have an original thing that's great? Basically the last guy they kind of make original stuff is Christopher Nolan, and yeah, so I'm all about that. But like I said, I do think there is a good amount of that stuff in streaming. There's a lot of money. I think certain properties we're seeing certain stories are better told in series rather than in films, right? It's easier to do character development and let things breathe. It's like one of the things that new Eternals film came out, which was fine. But a lot of people said this, and I agree with that it would have been better as a series.
I saw the trailer and I tapped out. I'm out of the MCU now, dude. Like I was hooked the entire time when they had the whole Infinity thing going, and after Endgame, I was just like, nah, I'm good. Like I'm not that they're bad or anything like that. It's just I was in for Thanos, and he's gone now, and I don't care about anything else that's going on. That was my guy. I don't like Captain America. I don't like Iron Man. Like I like them now. I'll give them that. The movies made me like those characters because when I was just collecting comics, I was more the villains guy. I did not care about any of the heroes.
Down with evil, I get it. Murder, genocide. Yes, that's your kind of thing. I get it.
Darkness.
That's right. I get it.
I need it in my life because I need it to balance me out, right? Isn't that how it works?
You're so good. I'm
so good. Guy. I'm such a nice guy.
Yeah, you just need a little bit. I totally get it.
So, tell me about yourself, mental health wise. How were you throughout this whole shit, man? Because I've discovered through this time period that I'm not as put together as I thought I was. So you tell me.
It's been rough, man. I lost two parents during the pandemic, not to COVID. And they were both young, under 70, both of them. Jeez. In their 60s, and both sudden. And that on top of whatever the world was going through during that time, and then this craziness with the band and online harassment, people like every day, several people telling you you're a piece of shit, you suck, you're going to be nothing, false claims, you didn't, just really, just tough stuff. Right. And so it's been rough, man. It's like, I kind of realize, I think depression, anxiety, these are just things, not only but I'm speaking from the perspective of myself, I think it's just something I'm going to have to deal with in my life. And I have to figure out mechanisms to deal with it and to manage it, right? Whether that's exercise or meditation or, just confronting things head on, right? And not sweeping them under the rug,
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been difficult, and I think there's a lot of moments, especially going through what we're going through, where you question yourself. You go, okay, because I think the thing about someone harassing you or telling you you're a failure or you're going to be a failure, part of you goes, well, are they right? Like, do I suck? Am I not good? And so you have that little questioning mind already there. But when someone gives kind of support to that, it makes you question yourself more, So I've had a lot of periods where it's like you kind of lose your mojo, so to speak. But that's kind of come back around, and for me, it's just being busy, being productive, working, like doing the wedding band stuff and the Battles record coming out, and having definitive goals and definitive, like, hey, we're doing it, because you can't really, you can't solve all the problems in a day, right? You can't, hey, I'm gonna quote unquote make it in a day, right? You can only deal with whatever thing you're doing. Hey, if I'm recording a guitar solo, I'm recording that guitar solo. That's what I'm doing. Just make that guitar solo good. If I'm doing a podcast, do a good podcast. Do my best efforts. And then if you do that collectively over a long period of time, and then you do 1,000 good things, then that equals hopefully some form of success. So, just, getting outside of my head, being focused, trying to do the right things, and just trying to be develop the right kind of positivity, because there's definitely delusional positivity, right? That doesn't see the signs of, hey, we need to work on this. Hey, maybe this isn't the best scenario, and where you're, well, everything's great, right? The ship is sinking, but everything, right? So trying to have a nice balance between that. Like, when some things are bad and you're depressed or whatever, sometimes it's okay to just, hey, things are bad right now. And I'm just going to sit in that and let the bad emotions exist and not fight it and go, I have to not be there. No, just sometimes it's okay to be sad. Sometimes it's okay to be down in the dumps, because you know what? What goes up must come down. What goes down must come up. There's a yin and yang. Now we want to tighten that wavelength so that the highs and lows aren't so high and low, right? We want to keep it in a manageable range. But it's something that I'm constantly working on, and it's very difficult in the age of social media, because I think there's expectations, especially when you're launching an album, when you're having this thing where people are, hey, are they doing well? Where you want to project success, you want to project strength, you want to project, right, everything's great. And I think that can be a hindrance of kind of feeling the need to perform something that's inauthentic. Right.
Yeah, no, I hear you. That makes sense. That makes sense to me. And the way I see it too, I mean, the way you were describing it is perfect. The up and down, the freak. I always see life as that. We're tuned in right now to a specific frequency of sound that materializes us. That's what science has told us, right? So that's the goal. Getting everything to that one frequency so that everything is, so you can hear the radio station clearly. And all of the shit that's happening, all the social media is what's making us, not be focused. It's just going up and down, up and down, up and down. You're getting these shots of dopamine every time that somebody likes your thing or comments on your thing or whatever it is, and people need to take time away from the social media and give themselves a break to kind of balance it out. That's the only other way. And, I believe that people like yourself that are, I'm just going to call you rock star. You're a fucking rock star. Most people that become rock stars come from some kind of adversity like that, where you grew up with people telling you you're not going to be good enough to do anything else. What are you playing guitar for? That's for losers. It's one or another, but you were younger. And when we were younger, we used it as fuel. That's kind of what drove, your passion. Like, fuck you. Yeah, I'm going to make music. You know what I mean? That's the punk rock mentality. And I think it can, it just once you do it and you succeed at it, we forget that is still there. That adversity is still there. You got to keep telling them, fuck you. You can't just be like, oh, well, maybe do I suck? But then there, like you said, there's that balance of that little line of, is it delusional? Am I stupid? Am I not, what's going on? So it's a tough thing, man. I think people should really, and I know that it seems that way now. I feel that people are now more conscious of mental health.
Yeah, I mean, listen, and the other thing I didn't really talk about as much as I think the detriment of people being plugged in because of lockdowns or not working, or office structures changing where people were working remotely, and people, and everything was happening in the political social climate with George Floyd and riots and the election, and there's no toilet paper in the stores, and it created all of this collective anxiety where people are fearful of something, whether they're fearful of getting sick or they're fearful of a rioter coming, or they're whatever thing that people honed in on. I think we're worse for the wear collectively. Like I think people have a funhouse mirror version of reality because they've gotten further into their bubble and they're listening to more people who engage in hyperbole and demonization. And so we don't really have an accurate sense of things. Like I did this post on Twitter not that long ago where I was talking about how like it confuses me, like how so many of us can look at the same thing and have like not only different opinions, but polar opposites. And I almost feel like those opinions aren't even that accurate. I think other people tell them what they should think. And so they double down. They go, well, my tribe thinks this, so I'm going with the tribe. And so there's not a lot of pushback against that and going, what is really there? There has to be some consensus on some things, right? A general consensus, right? 60-70% of people can look at, okay, that's what's happening there. And that really is scary to me. It's not that everyone should think the same about everything. I don't think that's true. But there should be certain things where we go, that wall's red, right? That's a red wall. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Like well, unless you're colorblind.
Yeah, well, exactly. But even if you can't see it, it still doesn't mean the wall's not red. It just might look different to your eyes based on your disability. But what I'm saying is that's the other thing that, like, I remember like first going out and you're just getting these weird conversations. You're like, this fucking pandemic broke a lot of brains. And I think it, and when I say that, I'm not just pushing that outward. I think my brain has been affected in its ways as well, but it's about mitigating those effects. And then also going, okay, we're in this process of having some semblance of normality, and going, okay, we were in that phase and now can we go back and do things and look at things different? But a lot of people are stuck, and that leads to extremism. It leads to, I think this, in a way, it's like a form of activism that I think can be troublesome.
Yeah.
Right. Like, because if everyone wants to start a revolution, right, but they have different revolutions, that can lead to a lot of crazy things, and a lot of like the people, like, I watched a documentary about January 6th. It's like those people were shouting 1776. They thought they were doing a revolution, right? And that's because that doesn't happen without the pandemic. That doesn't happen without being told something every day for X amount of time, and you have to do something, right? That's active, and we kind of want activism. We want people to be able to protest. Like it's this thing of like something good going over a certain point and past the point where it's no longer good and it becomes destructive. So,
yeah, I mean, the simplest way I've broken it down is, as human beings, we got to keep our bodies and our minds right. And what happened with the pandemic is that people stopped paying attention to their bodies. You hear plenty of stories. Some people went the right way and worked out at home and did stuff, but a lot of people put on that COVID-20 or whatever the fuck, or COVID-19 extra weight. People weren't exercising their bodies, and they were exercising their mind extra because they were home all the time. Stimulus, and Netflix, video games, whatever it is.
I
your phone.
I don't think they're working their minds. I think they were actually doing the opposite. I think they were doing the same. I think they were doing the same thing to their bodies they were doing to their minds, which is they were eating junk food physically, and then they were absorbing internet junk food. Right? So if you're in the wrong websites, you're on the wrong, listening to the wrong podcast, you're in the junk food aisle of the media department. So I think and if you're playing video games 15 hours a day, same thing. It's good in moderation, right? Yeah. It's okay to have a Snickers bar, once a week or a couple of times a week or something. But if you're eating 5 a day,
I saw you looking around. How many Snickers bars are you sneaking in, brother?
I don't even remember last time I had a Snickers bar.
I'm like, okay. Just the look that you gave, you're like once or twice a week.
No, actually, my go-to are these Reese's cake things. Have you seen these?
Oh, what's that?
Really good. These little Reese's cakes,
is it like a cake, but it's a giant buttercup?
No, it's not that big. It's pretty small.
Okay.
It's probably the same portion size, but it's just good. But anyway. So, but the point is, I actually think people, it's like they're hanging out in the ghetto of the internet, in the rough neighborhood with the shitty influences, and I think that's so. But they don't realize it. They think they're, it's like some people go, "Hey, do you know you probably shouldn't eat that?" And they go, "What? That's bad." Yeah. Yep. They don't know because so much of it is still so new, right? These enclaves and the polarization and a lot of that stuff in its current form is still pretty new. So we haven't really, and they're being told from the things they're absorbing that the other stuff is the junk food. So everyone's pointing at each other going, they're bad, they're bad, they're bad. So how do you know what's bad if everywhere you go, they say the other thing is bad?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I feel that people that do that get sucked into that, like the bad neighborhood or whatever, and they end up getting hooked on it. And like they want more, so they keep, and the more you feed yourself that, your brain starts to, fall apart, basically. You're exhausting your brain. You're not giving it time to rest. You need to back away from the screen and meditate for like an hour at least, like do some stretches or something. Like people aren't doing that. These people on like the QAnon sites or whatever, they're there all day, man. All day. They get up, coffee, delivery, and they just keep going. And it's that's not healthy. You got to back away, go stretch.
Well, for people, it's like, okay, let's say there's something bad happening somewhere in the world, right? Through most of human history, you wouldn't even known about this stuff, right? But now if there's a bombing in France, right, but you live in Kansas, as far as your brain is concerned, it might as well happen right down the street, right? Everything becomes localized. And essentially, people don't have the mechanism to process that. And so these media, like when I say media, the problem is when most people say media, you know what they mean? CNN.
Yeah.
Right? They literally mean media, and they mean these 3 cable networks that like not more than 2 million people even watch. Like 5 times many people listen to the Joe Rogan podcast than watch CNN or more, right? But guess what? He's media as much as they are media, as much as some YouTuber is media. Like it's all media, right? It's just a place you go to get information or learn things or kind of get a sense of what's going on, right? And everyone has a platform for the most part, and anyone's ideas can get out there, right? Mm-hmm. Some guy talking his pickup truck on TikTok is media and is influencing people. So the way that works is you create an enemy, right? The way to be successful in that, you create an enemy, you give people something to be afraid of, right? Then you go, here's why it's dangerous. And then you activate them. And then you go, well, here's how you take a part in it. So what it does is when that bombing happens in France, instead of feeling helpless, now they feel like they have some control. So what is it? So it'll be a call to arms. It'll go to the school meeting and yell at the teachers, or go, buy a gun, or write your so it's like activism is good. We want people to be active, but it's also like there's actually some shit you actually can't control. You have no control over it, right? Like me, I could be the biggest environmentalist in the world, right? But no matter how many cans I fucking recycle, how many hybrids
the machine is still grinding behind you.
Well, no, there's just the world is the world. You're one person, right? And some people, of course, one person can change the world, right? But more often than the case, that's not the case, right? That we're going to be like George Floyd changed the world, but did he try to? No, he just happened to be a person who went through something, and then the consequences of that kind of changed the world,
right?
Which is incredible. It's kind of like a butterfly effect moment. So people want some kind of control, and when they feel like they have no control, that really bothers them. So if you want to do well in media, give them something to be afraid of, tell them what they can do, and just keep them angry. Keep them fucking pissed off. Keep them pissed off and scared. Here's what to be afraid of. Here's what you should be angry about. And that gets your fucking adrenaline up. And then, like QAnon, part of the reason why that was so effective is it activates them to go out there and be like, it's like they're in a scavenger hunt. Yeah, every day it's like a crossword puzzle. You got to go figure it's a game. You're like the protagonist in your own story. You get to go out and you can be an active player, right? Oh, I'm gonna, that's why those. And so if you have no problem basically lying to people for a living and manipulating them, you can do it. And it's not one side. Everyone does it because it works.
Yeah. Yep. And I mean, I don't want to talk shit about, anyone, but there are certain people that I see once they get into a position where they have enough listeners that they pick a side. You know what I mean? It's weird. They realize like, oh, I got to keep them engaged. So what do? Follow those steps you just mentioned. Give them something to fear. Give them something to be crazy about and how to stand up against it. Like, I don't know, man. I've been playing around with the idea, and I've said it a few times on the podcast already, but if you want to be media, like you said, if you want to be a creator, a content creator, you need to pass a test and get a permit.
I don't know about all that. I think
you can have access to you can watch the internet, everything that's on it. But if you're going to put stuff on it, you need to have some kind of control of, like, you can't have people putting out, ridiculous shit on the internet.
But I think that's the responsibility of if YouTube is the kind of the marketplace, or they're the regulator of YouTube, then it's their job to monitor and have standards and practices and things that fall in certain lines. And they do. I'm not saying they do the best job or even a great job. I'm truth be told, I'm probably not clued in enough to understand all that stuff. I know YouTubers complain about them all the time. I mean, but look at the podcast market. That's pretty much completely unregulated. You can talk. I'm sure there's Nazi podcasts and all kinds of crazy whatever. I don't know if there's like, pedophilia podcasts. I'm sure stuff like that they probably take down. But there's, I think it's, if you're providing the platform, right? So like, and that's, by the way, and that's the reason why things like 4chan and 8chan started, was because Reddit became more regulated and people wanted to go a place that was like, excuse me,
the Wild West.
Yeah, Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome version of the internet where there was, and so it attracted specifically the kind of person that would post things that were offensive or dangerous or, beyond the pale. So I think in many ways that's kind of a version of the whole internet where some people, a pretty large contingency, kind of believe, well, no, the internet is the Wild Wild West and it has to stay the Wild Wild West. And that's the purest form of the internet. Right. And I just don't think that's true. I don't think and you're just kind of seeing that almost pervasive philosophically within society, where it's like the Kyle Rittenhouse situation, which is the idea behind vigilante justice and taking matters in your own hand, which is a very kind of old West type of mentality, right? Like if you live in certain states where they have open carry, and that's like to my mind, that feels regressive, right? Like we're going back to where, hey, everyone comes in town, everyone's locked and loaded, and we're kind of, and that's a vibe, and that's a vibe some people are into, right? It's not necessarily the vibe I'm into. But whether people want the Wild Wild West in the real world and also want it in digital spaces, it's all, it is a difference of philosophy. And I think we can have the debate, right? And I don't think it has to be like cut and dry or doctrinaire and say, I have all the answers. I think there is some of these things, it is a fine balance, right? Where you want freedom and you want freedom of expression and you want freedom of speech, but you also go, these are also great power in these tools, and how and that power used irresponsibly can cause a lot of harm. And how do we figure out how to just be responsible with the power?
Yeah. I mean, I think I don't know. Maybe that people will disagree with me. It's fine. I think that if a certain state wants to secede and go do your own thing, go. Good luck. Hope it works out for you. And then when it doesn't, you can come back. We'll buy you back. We'll let you in. Just pay the membership fee.
The problem with that, it's kind of like Brexit. There's
it didn't work.
Well, but there's so much involved. At least the UK was their own country for hundreds and hundreds of years before they joined the EU. So there's at least a precedent. But we're so interdependent, and there's all these benefits. I think the benefits overwhelmingly favor the negatives. It's, I always find the secessionists are usually like the self-proclaimed patriots. I love America so much, I want to leave.
That's right.
You love it or leave it. I'm like, you literally are trying to leave it.
Oh my God. Yeah. I don't know, man. I hear like shit from Texas. They're like, oh, you can walk around with your gun out without a permit, just out like cowboys, like the holsters.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I think some people, certain cultures and certain people, that's the environment they want to be in. Yeah. It's not necessarily an environment I want to be in. And I think that is the beauty kind of the country of having, if I want this kind of lifestyle, I can go to this state, and that's more fits how I want to live. And if I want a different lifestyle, I'll go to this state. And I think that's kind of cool about the US.
We just got to keep, have a meeting and like agree on certain things. Like, just try not to, do whatever you want over there. Just don't come over here and kill or do things. You know what I mean? Like, stay over there. You want to have your Wild West, and fucking stay there. Don't go exploring. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I think there are laws against that. I don't think you're allowed to bring, guns over state lines and things that are unregulated.
Well,
Yeah, you can get in trouble for that.
really? Because I thought someone recently didn't get in trouble for that.
Well, no, because apparently the judge made a decision that they weren't gonna include that, which I don't understand why or what the ramification. Like, I don't know the nitty-gritty details of that, but it was stricken basically from I don't know if they dropped that charge or I don't know the reasoning behind that.
That sounds fishy to me, bro. That's all.
Well,
I don't want to give a stance. I'm just like, I don't know. That sounds fishy to me.
It was something to do with the type of weapon. I think, like, because I guess if it's a certain kind of hunting rifle, it doesn't fall under certain regulations, and it's so I don't. It might be a little more technical. So I don't. Like I said, I go out of my way to not talk about things I'm not an expert on. I didn't follow the trial closely.
Neither did I. No,
I really don't.
It's from the outside. It just smells stinky. I don't like it.
Yeah, I mean, it's listen. I again, very surface level, but New York Times has a podcast called The Daily. I listened to their episode on it, and there's it's interesting, like, listening to that, because, like I said, I didn't really care about the case very much. I didn't think it really mattered that much. Ultimately, I think it's one instance, and it's like, to me, it's this idea of like, one thing is like big action, reaction, action, reaction, right? So it's this weird thing where it's like George Floyd happens, right, and then there's big pushback against policing and racial tension, and then there's riots and all this stuff, and so then there's another killing, right? And so that's what was happening in Wisconsin, and then people are responding to that, and then there's another killing, and then it's like almost like it becomes this never-ending thing of responses, right? Like, and so basically it was tried on the fact that he was there and it was self-defense, right? It doesn't take into the context of like, well, should he have even been there? Why is he there? Does he have a right to be? And then so it gets in this, but the trial is only about if he was in danger, if he felt he was in danger, did he have a right to defend himself? And it's as simple, and it's basically simple as that. So so the other broad questions of like, well, why are you there? You're 17 years old. Keep your monkey ass at home. And it's the idea, like, certain things of like, in my opinion, of how guns in the wrong hands create more violence is the fact that, so because he had a gun, he's worried about, well, if this guy beats me up and takes my gun, now he can kill me. But if you didn't have the gun, he couldn't take it from you to kill you. Yeah. So it completely elevates the situation that Kyle Rittenhouse is out there and he was supposedly doing first aid, right? Which I've never seen a fucking, EMT with a gun. But, once it escalates the situation, right? So it's all about our relationship with firearms and our philosophies, but it's the idea, well, these things keep us safe. Theoretically, in certain scenarios, yes. But this is an instance where if there was no gun, probably no one dies.
Yeah.
Right? It's, guess what? Sometimes, like, people just take an ass whooping, Like, sometimes, like, what happened to just taking an ass whooping? What happened to this dude's trying to fuck me up? No, I'm gonna run.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what? I'm 17. I got good fucking oxygen. I'll fucking outrun this motherfucker. But it's, again, I look at the situation and people are so emotionally invested. I don't think they can really see things clearly and not feel tribal and not take a side and go, well, why my team is with this, so I'm, no matter what, I'm gonna think this. And I think it's like, I heard the kid talk. I don't think he's a bad kid. He seems bright. And if you only play the perspective game, you can go, well, yeah, there's a version of that where you give someone the benefit of the doubt that they were trying to do the right thing or do something good and it just went bad. Like going in with the best intentions and things just going awry, right? Which is like that that phrase, the road to hell is paved with good intentions.
Hey,
And
that's what happened in Cuba.
Yeah.
Castro took over Cuba with good intentions.
Yeah.
They were under a dictatorship with Batista.
Yeah.
He came to free the people. All of the people wanted him.
Yeah.
And then what happened?
I'm a dictator.
Yeah. So I guess maybe because that's where I grew up with and my history and shit. Like when I see situations like this, that's what I see. I'm like, that's good intentions. Okay, I get it. I'm not gonna, like I said, I don't know enough to give a perspective or a side on that scenario. It's just the whole thing just seems fishy, like you said. And and I don't necessarily agree with what I'm about to say, but I'm starting to understand those parents when I was younger that were like, oh, video games are bad for kids. Like, I don't think they're bad for kids, but I also feel that the more realistic they get with 4K and fucking all that, and like you're playing Call of Duty where you have a gun in your hand and these kids are getting this rush because it looks real and they're doing it in VR or wherever the fuck, like that can't be good, It can't be a good thing for brains.
Well, I think those things are difficult to prove. It's never really been proven. I mean, there are some correlations between, for example, the way modern video games are and how they train people to use like drones. So if you're actually physically using that technology and controlling drones, that they know that having that distance kind of, it doesn't feel quite as real. And part of that might be because kids grow up playing video games and you have this thing of, right, like, is it a weird thing that we spend a lot of our time virtually killing people or watching violent movies? Like, I love violent movies, right? My favorite films, right? But there's some, there's a lot of data that suggests it actually does the opposite, that it makes you more peaceful because you can kind of get stuff out of your system and that there might be a therapeutic effect. So, I mean, just in general, I think the problem is when things happen that are tragic and we can't explain it necessarily, there's a lot of scapegoating. So it's 1980s. It's the evil metal music that made these kids kill themselves or murder somebody. It's in this era, it's Marilyn Manson's fault that the kids at Columbine did what they did. And so I think when you bring these things up, it's not that there's no valid point to it. It's that unless you can empirically prove it and we know how to kind of deal with that, it just becomes a scapegoat. It becomes convenient because it alleviates responsibility of everyone else involved, right? The parents, the society at large, the educational system, just whatever's going on. So I think we have to be careful about that stuff. And like I said, I think with everything, it's just in moderation, right? Like, or understanding, okay, if you take someone who's mentally unbalanced and they think it's real, right? There was a guy, I was watching this one documentary who watched the Matrix, right? He was obsessed with the Matrix. And he thought he was Neo, and he like got the trench coat and he murdered his mother and father.
Jesus Christ.
And he thought he was in the Matrix. And it's like, is that the Matrix fault? Or was it a mentally unstable person who happened to find a piece of media to glom on? And the truth is, if it wasn't for the Matrix, it would have been Fight Club, or it would have been Equilibrium. It would whatever. It would have been Blade. That person would have found something to focus their mental illness around, and it just happened to be that, and I think that happens a lot of these mass shooters or terrorists, like when you had these string of attacks that were ascribed to ISIS, where it's just Muslims who lived in America ISIS just was like the hot thing. So they were just
a buzzword.
I'm with ISIS, but it's like, are you? You're just a guy who just says that. But if it was 10 years earlier, would they have just, I'm with Al Qaeda? They would have just, you know what I'm saying? Like, what is it that organized? Is it that? I don't think so. I think, or sometimes there's a crazy person will like try and will do a killing, and they're a Bernie supporter, they're a Trump supporter, and I'm like, does it really matter? They were not well.
Yeah.
You know, it's just, you know, and that's the thing is like when you have people who are mentally unstable, to me, their motivations are almost irrelevant because it could be anything. It could be a game of Mad Libs.
Interesting. Yeah, that it makes sense to me the way you're describing it. You know, I have started feeling that fear of like, you know, am I starting to understand the old ladies about that were saying video games are bad? Because it really, you know, but you're right. It's the person because I haven't gone out and killed anyone. I play lots of video games. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, like to me, when I look at that situation, it's a question of how do we feel about taking matters in our own hands, right? And there's an element of being proactive that goes beyond what is reasonable, right? Like, you know, is it my responsibility to protect my home? Of course, right? That's a yes, right? Okay, if someone's trying, okay, yes, you are complete, but is it your responsibility to go out and be the police?
No.
In the place, are you right? Are that is a kind of in civilized society, we've kind of gone past that. But is it like if the situation is so bad, if there are riots and chaos, what is the response? So this is what I'm saying of like putting yourself in the mentality of someone who is actually trying to do something good, but maybe does it ineffectually, which is why you should not have 17-year-olds on the street doing things that grown people should be doing. Like, so I think it's a lack of, you know, just being able to manage people and like put people in that position. You know, that's just.
Do you think it falls on the parents? Do you think that your parents need to raise you right?
Well, of course, but there's also apparently a legal structure that defended that environment. So it's like, so a lot of it so they said like, so you have self-defense laws, right? Which are pretty different in states, but in a lot of these kind of redder states, they're very strong, stand your ground, like Florida and things like that. And then when you take that self-defense, which was originally basically described for home defense, right? That's what they were designed for. And then you combine that with open carry laws, it turns the streets into a different legal playing ground, right? So which is kind of weird because as long as you have a gun and as long as you say you're in danger, then it's justified. This is why so many cops don't get prosecuted for shooting unarmed people, is because as long as they can prove that or convince a jury or whomever the body's looking at, they were in legit danger, that works. But think about it. That's only because the gun is there. The stakes are so high. Imagine two of us both have guns, right?
Yeah.
It actually is in your best interest to kill the other person because once they're dead, they can't testify. And all you do say is I'm in danger. But theoretically, if both people feel in danger and they shoot each other, aren't they both equally have merit? Unless you say, well, whoever initiated it is the one. So I'm just saying it's like this.
Han shot first, basically.
Yeah. Like it's really, it's kind of, but this is what happens when you give that's so much freedom and responsibility to say, hey, you can have a weapon in the streets and then go into a violent, unpredictable environment like civil unrest. I think it's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah.
You know, you're gonna have, as long as there is civil unrest and you have open carry and citizens who feel engaged to want to go out in those environments unregulated, right? It's unregulated. And listen, a lot of these environments, you saw what happened. There aren't enough police to deal with the looting or there's not enough manpower. And so then people feel activated in some cases, like if it's your store, your house, you're going to want to defend it. And that's reasonable, you know?
Yeah.
So there's, like I said, I think a lot of people responding emotionally, not giving the benefit of the doubt or giving too much benefit of the doubt. Right. So, you know, we all kind of got to figure out how to look at these things. But like I said, I actually personally don't even think the case is that important, in my opinion. But people will make it important. But it's not. That ain't affecting my day.
Yeah,
generally. But it's just tough to talk about, I think, for a lot of people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, it's funny. You mentioned that whole mentality, and I saw it on such a small scale the other day. I went to the Every Time I Die Violent Gentleman show, the anniversary show,
Mm-hmm.
and I was looking for parking. There was no parking for the structure, so you had to like street parking or whatever. And I found like this like lot, and I didn't see any signs or anything. I parked, and then as I'm walking out, I see a sign that says this is school parking lot. But I see other cars parking and people getting out of their cars, and I stopped one of the guys. I'm like, "Hey, man, can we park here?" He's like, "They can't tow us all, brother." I'm like, "That's where we're at. That's where we're at as a society. They can't tow us all." I'm like, oof.
It's always been that way. Like there's a thing cops, security understands fundamentally is that there's never enough police to actually stop everyone if things went crazy. Yeah. So part of the way they demonstrate strength is to keep an illusion that they actually do have enough. But the truth is, if the people wanted to overrun anything, there's not enough police, unless literally like you got the army involved or something crazy like that. In response to things like massive crowds and riots, when you get to like that sums of people, obviously they can handle domestic, normal policing scenarios dealing with smaller numbers of people. But of course, yeah, there's and laws are only as good as they can be enforced, right? Like there's not enough like that, there's just not enough manpower to accomplish certain things. That's why like this idea, hey, we're gonna get rid of all the illegal immigrants. I'm like, how?
Good luck.
You know how much money that would cost and how many years it would take a workforce of like probably 500,000 people, 15 years to do it. You know what I'm saying? And then meanwhile, people are still coming in. It'd be like a fucking like, you know what I'm saying? It's like an impossible problem. So even if you 100% wish that would happen, I'm not saying you or I do, but I'm just saying if someone wanted that, there's no logistical way to actually perform it. So then once you kind of realize that, it's kind of like drugs, right? Like you really wanted to get rid of drugs, it'd have to be like the Philippines, where like if you get caught with drugs, they just shoot you. Like you'd have to be so afraid of selling drugs or getting caught with drugs that you wouldn't want to live in that society. It'd be horrible.
Yeah.
What we do, we just pretend like we're gonna arrest people. You're just going through some fake shit and we're just ruining a bunch of people's lives. But the truth is, it should just be legal because you can't stop it anyway, unless you lived in some crazy society that you wouldn't want to live in.
Yeah, you know? Dude, it blows my mind living here in California now that I used to buy weed. It would take me 2.5 hours. I would have to go on a fucking adventure, go into some neighborhood, hang out in front of a house for a few minutes until somebody walked out. It was dangerous. There was definitely weapons and dogs and all kinds of crazy shit, to now where I can walk into a store and there's a dude giving me dab samples. Like that's nuts. And there's people in jail for that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like shit is weird. And I don't know. I really don't know. I think that's what it comes down to, is I don't know what we can do to make shit less weird, or if we even should make shit less weird.
Isn't it funny that in Texas you can walk around with a gun, but you can't buy weed?
Well, I can't have you high with a gun, man. That's just crazy.
Well, no, but it's like, it's funny where it's like, oh, we're free, but can't do that.
Can't smoke weed.
Which seems a little weird.
It is weird, man. God bless everyone that went to Texas. Best of luck to you guys, all the comedians that left the store and went over to Austin. I'm happy for you. I'm glad you're happy, but you couldn't pay me enough money to move to Austin, Texas right now.
I like Austin. I like Texas.
I like visiting. Awesome time to hang out, but live?
Yeah.
That's like telling me go back to Florida. There's no way I would ever move back to Miami, I'll go visit all my buddies, good times. But
Miami is buck wild.
Dude.
Miami's fun. I like Miami.
Yeah. Miami is a party town. And if you go even further south, if you go to the Keys, woo, you want to talk about Wild West? That's the Keys. Back when we would do this brew festival down in Key West, and it was just madness, dude. 5 a.m. people walking barefoot in the street, drunk. Like, it's just chaos. No cops. No, nothing.
You gotta love that. I feel like every time I watch, there's so many like documentaries like Cocaine Cowboys, just like Miami, right? And I was watching this one about the kind of quack doctor dude, fake doctor who got all the baseball players steroids.
Oh yeah.
That was all Miami craziness. I was watching this one, thing about this crazy con artist dude who was all Miami. I'm like, dude, it's kind of the wild, wild west down there in general. There's just no, it's like the place for con artists and drug dealers and just weirdos because you can kind of get away with everything.
Yeah, dude, I used to get prescription medication all the time. Yeah. Plan B, whenever I'd fuck up, I was walk into the pharmacy. Hey, I would like some of that Plan B stuff, and boop, here you go, $60. No prescriptions.
Same thing with the opiate epidemic is that people literally would drive down there because there was no regulation. You could just go to some like just piece of shit fucking clinic, and they'll just like there's a line out the door.
Yeah. It's shitty pharmacies in Little Havana and 60th Avenue and 8th Street. I can give you addresses. They have to just walk right in. Whatever you need. Hey, I need antibiotics. They're like, did your doctor say you need antibiotics? Nah.
Well,
I have a bad tooth.
I'm totally
okay.
I'm totally fine with that. You can do that in like Europe and stuff. You don't like why should we really need? Is anyone getting high on antibiotics?
No. But there's other drugs that you get same way. Valiums, you can get whatever you want. Basically, whatever you want. As long as you walk in with enough confidence, they just give it to you. Yeah, I need 60 Valiums. I ran out. I'm like, okay. And they just give you a bottle of it. It's like, fuck.
Are you sure you need this? Don't I look like I need it?
I need it. I definitely need it. It's but it's fun. I had a blast. I'll tell you that. I had a blast living down there for so long. A lot of things I regret. But good times overall. But dude, we've been going for an hour and 25 minutes. Usually we stop at an hour, but we could talk forever, I think.
Definitely get me running my mouth. I apologize if I talk too much.
No, man, that's good. That's the whole point of a podcast. So for everybody that's watching and listening, this was Doc Coyle. I'm going to start doing this now. I'm going to start introducing the guest at the end of the episode.
I like it.
Yeah. Got to change the podcast world, man. Everybody's too generic.
Yeah, this man needs no introduction.
Yes. But Mr. Coyle, it was great seeing you last night. It made me very happy. Like I said, I saw you at the Knotfest 2
nights ago, bro. 2 nights. Day before yesterday.
Mastodon was the day before yesterday?
Day before yesterday, that's right.
Inga, dude. Mm-hmm. And my memory's shot.
That's all right.
No, but yeah, so it was good seeing you, though, recently.
Likewise.
It felt like it was yesterday. And, it brings me joy to see friends and to see you all around all the time. For people that want to follow your adventures, at Doc Coyle.
Everywhere.
On all of the things.
DocCoyle. I'm easy to find.
Easy to find. Especially with that rhinestone jacket you had on. I loved it. You're easy to find. I spotted you right away.
I'm at Brown. Ultimate individuality. Shout out.
Yeah. Also, Bad Wolves. At Bad Wolves. I mean, shit, dude. Number one.
Yeah, we have number one single.
You're the number one.
Act Rock's single in the country right now.
Fuck yeah, dude. I'm very happy. I'm so happy for you, man. I know that you've been, like you said, you've been through some shit. And I want you to know, too, that you know how to get a hold of me. So if you're ever down in the dumps, hit me up. We can hang out.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Thank you guys for listening. Thank you, brother, for your time.
Take care. Have a great day.
Love you, brother.
Cheers. Peace.